The secret of the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth. The Korean Peninsula is a place where the DAUM tribe, which is a group of spirit souls with the energy of the Creator most abundantly, is living on the largest scale in the world. The Korean Peninsula used to be the center of a material civilization in the age of Sun Chun, and shall be the center of a spiritual civilization in the age of Fu Chun. The Korean Peninsula is the land where everything returns to its origin it has come from when the end times come. The Korean Peninsula is the place where the first civilization of the planet Earth began, and where the present civilization of the planet Earth shall be terminated. The Korean Peninsula is a sacred land from which a new spiritual civilization shall begin on earth, and also a holy land where the covenant of the Creator made at the dawn of the universe shall be executed. The Korean Peninsula is where the stargates for the supply of the energy of the heaven are installed most heavily. The Korean Peninsula is the hub of stargates that deliver the energy supplied from the heaven to all the areas of the planet Earth. The heaven has been continuously supplying its energy to the people living on the Korean Peninsula to remind them of their identity as the descendants of the heaven. The heaven has been supplying the DAUM tribe living on the Korean Peninsula with the Jeonggi of the heaven, composed of Cheongi, Jigi, and Ingi, to let them have pride and self-esteem in themselves. The heaven has been continuously supplying the Jeonggi of the heaven to prevent the Korean people living on the Korean Peninsula from forgetting their identity. The levels of spiritual and material civilizations of a nation are determined by the nature of Cheongi supplied from the heaven. The cultural and regional characteristics of a nation are determined by the nature of Jigi supplied from the heaven. On the other hand, the nature of Ingi supplied from the heaven determines the personalities of a people or the character of a nation. The main system of the heaven that supplies Cheongi, Jigi, and Ingi to the Korean Peninsula is located in the interdimensional space in the sky above Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul, South Korea. To be specific, the heavenly system that supplies the Jeonggi of the heaven to the Korean Peninsula is operated in a vertically organized structure in which related systems are organized into the upper, middle, and lower layers, and the system installed above Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul works as the center of the entire system by existing on the middle layer. On the upper layer of the supply chain for the heavenly Jeonggi on the Korean Peninsula, there are 4 energy centers distributed in 4 locations. Each of them is located to the north, south, east, or west of the main system existing in the sky above Gyeongbokgung Palace. The energy centers existing on the upper layer are as follows. The northern energy center is located on Baekdu Mountain that has supplied the heavenly Cheonggi to the Korean peninsula. The southern energy center exists on Halla Mountain that has supplied the heavenly Cheonggi to the Korean peninsula. In the east, the heavenly Cheonggi has been supplied to the Korean peninsula from the energy center of the East Sea. In the west, the heavenly Cheonggi has been supplied to the Korean peninsula from the energy center of the West Sea. Cheonggi, Ji-gi, and In-gi supplied from the four regions in the north, south, east, and west of the Korean peninsula have maintained the identity of the Korean people for many years. The energies of the heaven coming from the regions of the four cardinal directions of the Korean peninsula have been supplied to the entire Korean peninsula and have dynamically acted on this land. The overall system for supplying the heavenly Cheonggi to the Korean peninsula has been changed little by little over time. The main supply center for the heavenly Cheonggi that had played a pivotal role in developing the spiritual civilization in the Korean ancient times, corresponding to the prehistoric era, was located above Mani Mountain in Ganghwa-do. After written history began on the Korean peninsula, the supply chain for the heavenly Cheonggi had been changed twice in the period of the Three Kingdoms of Korea and in the period of the Goryeo dynasty. In addition, the current form of the supply chain for the heavenly Cheonggi on the Korean peninsula was established in the Joseon dynasty and has been operated ever since that time. On the middle layer of the supply chain for the heavenly Cheonggi on the Korean peninsula, two energy centers are located in two areas to the north and south of Seoul, respectively. The northern supply chain is installed in the sky above the Nonghyup Mountains, and the southern supply chain is located in the sky above the Taebaek Mountains. On the other hand, there are a large number of energy centers on the lower layer of the supply chain, and they are densely installed all over the Korean peninsula to supply the heavenly Cheonggi to this land. In the northern part of the Korean peninsula, many energy supply centers supplying the heavenly Cheonggi to the North Korean region have been installed along the small mountain ranges that stretch out from the Nonghyup Mountains, and they are operated in the form of a supply network. In the southern Korean peninsula, the energy supply centers covering the South Korean region have been installed along the mountain ranges that extend from the Taebaek Mountains, and they are operated by forming a supply network. The high mountains in local regions or the tall trees in villages all contain energy centers through which the heaven supplies the heavenly Cheonggi to the areas surrounding them. Since ancient times, Korean people have known this fact and thus have believed that a big figure can be born with the help of the Cheonggi that influences his hometown. Also, they have believed that people can live by receiving the Cheongi suitable for them. Korean people, knowing about these heavenly energies, have believed that all living creatures can live by receiving the heavenly Cheongi supplied to the area where each of them lives. When necessary, the heaven may readjust the energy of Cheongi supplied to living things, which is called the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth. The heaven may readjust the energy of Ji-gi supplied to living things out of necessity, and this process is also called the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth. The heaven may readjust the energy of In-gi supplied to living things out of necessity, and this process is also called the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth. The heaven may readjust the energy of Cheongi supplied to a particular region in line with the heavenly program, which is also the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth in human language. The heaven may readjust the energy of Ji-gi supplied to a specific region following the heavenly program, which is also the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth in human language. The heaven may readjust the energy of In-gi supplied to a certain region according to the heavenly program, which is also the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth in human language. The heaven may readjust the energy centers of Cheongi, Ji-gi, and In-gi installed on the Korean peninsula by the will of the heaven, which is called the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth for the Korean peninsula. The energy supply systems for Cheongi, Ji-gi, and In-gi installed and operated in Europe may be modified or augmented by the will of the heaven, which is called the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth for Europe in human language. If the 17th dimensional energy supply systems for Cheongi, Ji-gi, and In-gi installed and operated on the planet Earth are transformed into the 18th dimensional ones by the will of the heaven, it is called the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth for the planet Earth in human language. The energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth for the planet Earth is in progress now, in which the 17th dimensional energy supply chains for Cheongi, Ji-gi, and In-gi installed on the planet Earth are being transformed into the 18th dimensional ones by the Creator who has come down to the earth. During the process of the uprising of the Earth's tilted axis, there will be great disasters in which the Earth will be rolled up and spread out, meaning the massive crustal movements of the planet Earth. Currently, the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth is being conducted to supply new Cheongi, Ji-gi, and In-gi to the planet Earth. This process was studied on the Korean peninsula by the Creator who has come down to the earth to invite those who will live on the new earth under the new heaven after the uprising of the Earth's tilted axis is over. In order to open the age of Huchon, the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth is being undertaken on a large scale to supply new Chungi, Jigi, and Ingi to the planet Earth. The fact that the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth is currently in progress on the planet Earth means that the heaven has prepared new Chungi, Jigi, and Ingi for the new earth under the new heaven that will be opened after the uprising of the earth tilted axis is ended. The fact that the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth is being conducted on the planet Earth now means that the heaven has prepared the Chungi, Jigi, and Ingi needed in the age of theocracy, in which the Creator rules the planet Earth directly. The fact that the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth is currently underway on the planet Earth means that the heavenly programs are ready to be implemented on the planet Earth that will be operated as the Jami-1 of the material world, that is, the center of the grand universe. The fact that the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth is in progress on the planet Earth now means the end of Code 23, belonging to the Earth's evolutionary roadmap in the age of Suncheon, and the beginning of Code 32 that belongs to the Earth's evolutionary roadmap in the age of Hucheon. As there is a need to clarify the energy remodeling of the heaven and the earth, I, Captain Udeka, leave this message as a record. January 14th in 2021, Udeka wrote,